All right, great. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Jennifer Edge Savage. I am an occupational therapist, and I'm an technology specialist in the Boston area. So this whole idea is near and dear to my heart. So we're going to talk about accessible seating, flexible classroom design, and really thinking more about that inclusive classroom and the general education classroom, and how do we support all students. So what I have done is I shared a link, a bit.ly link for the presentation, as well as a QR code, whatever works for you to jump in and grab the resources, okay? So one of the things to start, and you guys get a little sneak peek at what we're going to be doing at our playground at the ISTE conference coming up, where we have expanded playground sessions for all of the sessions that you saw today. So one of the things I'll look at is, what does your classroom look like? And what are your favorite classroom design ideas? Because really think of teachers as designers, not only like their lessons, but also the classroom and the physical environment that they're using. So I created a Padlet. And hey, if you'd like to get it started, get ready for the ISTE conference, you can take a look at it and take a moment to share. So I set it up as a place where this can be a central place to share resources. So hoping that folks get a chance to take a picture of your classroom. What does it look like? What are you proud of? Maybe what do you wish it could look like? And also share an option for what are your favorite flexible classroom design tips, tricks, tools. You can share pictures and links here to share with folks. And also, how, if you've used flexible classroom design, has it improved student learning, and how, and a place to share real stories. And then also, have you tried something that did not work? So we have an opportunity to also get support from peers to really talk that through and share ideas for making it work. And we'll revisit this at the end as well, but this is a place here. You're welcome to multi-tab the Padlet. Okay, so when we're thinking about seating in the classroom, one size does not fit all, especially when it comes to, right? So this is one of my favorite pieces of equipment in the classroom, the chair desk. How well does that work in your classroom? And if you walked into a classroom like I did yesterday and need to sit comfortable or go. So we get a variety and sizes of students. How do we function? How does this create a collaborative learning space that's engaging for students? We have these rows of desks because easy to clean, easy to keep in order. What would happen if we ditched the desks? And for most folks, we think utter chaos. How we control things. But more and more teachers are ditching the desk and rethinking about that classroom environment. So think about yourselves. Where would you like to learn? In rows of chairs that really prohibit socialization, collaboration, movement. Your chair is actually attached to your workspace, or a place that's warm and inviting with flexible seating options, floor. Think about, too, where do you want to go to meet with someone, to meet with friends, to have a chat? Starbucks. Why do we go to Starbucks? Because it's inviting, beautifully decorated. There's flexible, comfortable seating. There's soft music in the background. It's a great place to look. There's $10 coffee, and they want you to linger and buy another one. Unlike places that are colored with bright reds and yellows and oranges and pinks, they want you in and out as fast as you can. And sometimes maybe we need to think about how we're setting up and designing our classroom environment to support student learning. And we think about it, the classroom is supposed to be a student learning environment, not a place where we store everything, right? And too often, it ends up being rows and rows and stacks of materials that we're going to use and pull out for students. Can we hide them? Can we do something else with them? How can we make sure that this is about the students and student learning? So why are we talking about flexible seating and this flexible learning environment? Well, one, it really digs into UDL principle number 3, like student engagement. So multiple means of engagement for students and really preparation for learning. Why flexible seating? We got to think about comfort. We're built to move, and we really need to think about choice, because there are a lot of choices for seating, and that 99 sitting angle is maybe not the best for everyone. As I mentioned earlier, there's opportunities for collaboration. I was in a classroom yesterday with rows of chair desks, and a great activity where students need to divide up and collaborate and think through some ideas about the Constitution. the teacher was even singing Alexander Hamilton songs. But when it was time to collaborate, only 2 students opted to actually even move those desks so that they could connect and talk to each other more comfortably. So when we think about it, how do we get, those bodies in motion? Having bodies in motion is kind of what we need to learn. I've heard the term, the saying, bodies in motion means brains in motion. And we need to support our students with that sensory regulation and give them opportunities to improve attention. Think about the things you do to keep attention when you're in some sort of sit and get environment. What are you doing right now during this webinar to pay attention at this hour, nearly 5 o'clock hour? So as we start embracing and start thinking about this classroom design, we need to think about engaging our students in it too, because they're a part of learning about their learning. And we can control that chaos a little bit. Some great articles by Aaron Klein talking about kind of brain-based design tips for the classroom. And we'll look a little deeper into these ideas as well, but it involves layout. What kind of furniture are you using? What are the colors like in the classroom? Can we ditch the fluorescent lighting? And what happens if we create small spaces with more supportive and warm kind of lighting environments? Picturing, because plants have oxygen, just adding oxygen to the environment. And where do we put those materials? How do we help organize our students in that environment so it's not chaotic? So there's some images for you. So like layout space options. One of the big things is how do you create spaces when you have these fixed desks and fixed rows? The idea of wheels on things can be really popular and powerful. So having that movable furniture, because you need to think about, you need spaces for whole group kind of instruction and support and discussion. But then you also need to think, well, look at your environment. Where do I put those small spaces for small group work? And you got to honor all learners. There's time for individual work too. And is there a place for that? That works. Whether you're making cozy spaces and really thinking about varying instead of all the same size kind of table. What if you had a variety of tables and seating options? Okay. Well, some images of these, but your seating options don't always have to be seated in a chair. You can stand, kneel, sit, lie down, bounce, rock, spin. And for our students with more significant physical disabilities, thank goodness for Riften and Lecky, which gives us these, these and others, which give us these great options for, for lying down and accessing work, for standing, for sitting on the floor. There are so many great tools to help students engage. I love floor sitters for my students so they can be on the floor and playing with their peers, because sometimes being in a wheelchair can be really separating and connecting with others. So some of you have seen some of these. Back jacks, just using pillows, having bean bags. I've had teachers beg for, couches, and to try to create these flexible seating areas within the classroom. A real popular tool too is those carpets with marked spaces. So it's a whole class space, but individual spaces so students can, feel safe and have a controlled bit of environment. So carpet tiles, circular little rug, carpet spaces, yoga mats. I love seeing that yoga and mindfulness and meditation are coming into that classroom. So that's also part of tools for learning and for students to learn how they learn and prepare for learning. So yoga mats create a great physical environment for students who need that safe space too. You know where your things belong. Seen some of these hokey chairs, move and sit cushions, backpacks, the balls. I've seen more and more balls disappear from the classroom in favor for balls with legs that are a little more stationary, a little less chaotic in the classroom. And there's a whole company designed to Kids in Motion was actually creating exercise desks and other types of seating for kids to get them moving again, which is sad as we start seeing recess sometimes vanish and fewer opportunities for movement. We really start thinking about these things. Can our students really sit in those same chair desks all day long and be able to engage? When's the last time you were able to do that? So favorite kind of resource to go to too for thinking about options for the classroom, and they don't always have to cost a fortune, but Pinterest is filled with great ideas from teachers around the world trying to be creative and how their classroom can look and having wish lists for things that they want to get or what they've hacked to create to make the classroom more accessible for their kids. If you want to jump back, the image in this slide, really creative little backpack, really creative little reading nooks. They just flip their chairs on in and put a pillow and give a little space for kids to relax and read. I'm an OT. I like to see kids reading on their stomachs, start building that core strength so that they can be better prepared to sit in their chair when they need to. The other big thing we'll talk about when we think about classroom design is kind of sensory breaks and fidget options, right? So fidgets come in a whole variety of styles and shapes and textures, soft, hard, squishy, heavy. The idea is that this provides some sort of physical outlet to wake up the brain so that we can focus, so that we can better problem solve. But you can't just throw a pile of fidgets into a room without teaching kids a little bit about sensory processing needs and getting the occupational therapist maybe involved to start really thinking about, well, what works for you? What works for you when? And really thinking about their learning. So I've seen mindfulness jars used in the classroom, not a fidget, but a quick little sensory break to really calm down, give options for rethinking. When we think about what means of engagement, it's kind of, recruitment of interest, sustaining effort and persistence, but also providing options for self-regulation is really important. Skills that we can explicitly teach kids and get them thinking about how they learn. Other things, weighted lap blankets, stress balls, it's a long laundry list of great ideas. Like think about, what do you use? And I hear the gasp across the world of those spinners, which some are saying are the menace to classrooms. They might be. So when you think about fidgets, first, is it helpful? Is it helping the student focus? Or is it distracting? Is it distracting for the student? Is it distracting for others? Because there are going to see citizens within the community, and it's really distracting for someone else. It's interrupting their time. So we need to figure out classroom management ways of working that out. One of the rules I start having about fidgets is a fidget should be kind of mindless. Like your cognition should not be kicking in. And often your visual system shouldn't even be kicking in. It should be pure movement. So whether it's bungee cords under the desk, maybe it's one of those fidget cubes that you're clicking, maybe it's a worry stone, maybe it's a stress ball, whatever it might be, it shouldn't be really engaging your brain to think about what you're doing. So for me, when sometimes I see those, when we think about those fidget spinners, like, is it distracting them? Is it requiring some cognitive energy to see how it spins, to get it to spin faster, to move it? How many times has it fallen on the floor and distracted others? So we need to think about that. And maybe part of that is working on rules with your students to figure out, okay, what does it mean to use these tools? What works for you when? And always back to, we're creating these expert learners. And it's back to, is it helpful? Is that different seating option helpful or harmful to learning? Think about this whole sit and get idea. We're not designed to sit all day. Our core strength is reduced, our balance is reduced. We create attention difficulties that maybe might seem like they're attention deficit type of disorder. We fidget and move to wake up our brain. We need those changes of position. So part of that is organizing that classroom, having activity centers, having changes in movement. As an OT, if I'm doing a session, you have to move every 45 to 60 minutes. You just need to. As adults, for kids, I think that time is even shorter. So how do we set up the environment? How do we start thinking about our environment to introduce these opportunities so they're not sitting and getting all the time? And back to this engagement and students as expert learners, let them discover choice. Sometimes I see, well, it's your turn to use the back jack, or it's so-and-so's turn to use the hokey chair. The thing is, it needs to be student driven. They need to have choice so they can identify their learning needs. Give them opportunities to try all the different spaces out and figure out what works. And some students might gravitate to that same space every day because maybe they figured out that works for them. And how's their engagement? How are their grades? How's their evidence of learning? If it's working, let them go to that same place every day? What works? And always teaching kids to reflect on the impact of any of these seating options and fidget toys and other tools for really how it impacts their learning. It's okay to change your choice for day to day. So when we want kids to be more mindful and respectful on how they use these options, how do they do that if they're never given an opportunity in a safe environment to actually practice those skills? So that was quick. So I've shared some resources, some great resources to really dig deeper and look at some of the tools. We're hoping at the IFSE conference coming up to have some actual flexible seating options for folks to try out, as well as a host of images about them and opportunities for you to start thinking about how you're going to design your classroom environment. Start thinking about that now. So some of the resources here are School Health, TheraPro, and Edutopia. What a nice resource. So many resources about flexible classrooms. And I've shared the video for you to take a look at on your own. Great video about flexible classrooms to really provide students with the learning environments that they need. Believe it or not, we can get to the desk. We can create a more inviting environment for learning. So back to our Padlet. I hope you'll take the time to share your ideas, share pictures of your great classrooms, share your favorite tools, share your success stories with trying to more universally design your classroom environment to support all students. Thanks, everyone.